Good morning, everybody. It gives me immense pleasure to initiate a dialogue with one of the very prominent Urdu fiction writer, Rahman Abbas, who has published a couple of books, including 4 novels and one book on criticism, poetics of novel, and some translations. So recently, he's published a very famous novel, that is Rosen. So before we just discuss what poetics and what is politics and poetics, there is much more than the 2 words suggest. That is much more than the alliteration, all the words beginning with P. So we would be discussing something later on. But recently, you see, India is agog with a lot of literary festivals. Everywhere you will find every literary festival is going on. So once in Simanchal, before we start a serious discussion on Urdu literature, so he remarked in the Simanchal Literary Festival that earlier writers used to go to jails for offering resistance. Now they are going to attend literary festivals. So I just want to, the other day, Mahmood Sheikh, who was just inaugurating it, the festival, he made a very apt remark. He said earlier it was universities and some other public places where you used to discuss dissent and literature and culture. Now the space is shrinking. So that's why the literary festivals are coming up. So I just want to begin with that. I know he made a remark in a very lighter vein, but I just want to know his take on what is the nature of literary festival, how he perceives it.
So this question is about what I think about literary festival. Yes, writers should get chance to mingle with people, discuss with them, meet them, and talk about the background behind their writing and the possibilities they want from their writing. So I think it is something very good, very positive. There was time when writers and thinkers were taking political positions also, and we have seen in many cases in different countries that writers had to face jails too, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't go to literary festival.
You see, the nature of writing itself is an act of resistance. You resist the status quo. That's why you write. Do you think so? Act of writing itself is an act of resistance.
For me, writing is a sort of political statement. It is totally your looking at the society, your understanding of the society, and the way you want to see human society to develop or to take shape. So definitely every word is a sort of resistance, or it is a kind of dream. The dream you see to look at the future and how humanity can go beyond that. So I think it is, of course, a political, a sort of resistance, and it is a political activity in itself.
Yes, thank you. Rahman, I just in introductory remarks, I just told you that he has written 4 novels. First novel is Nakhlistan Ki Talash, Quest for an Oasis. Then the Mamnua Mohabbat Ki Kahani, A Tale of Forbidden Love. And the third one, the recent one, is a Rosen. So Rosen, he just coined a new word. So Ruh and plus Huzn. Ruh means soul. He coined a new word in Urdu. And Huzn means some kind of gloom or something, very deep-seated gloom. So he put together, these are the 3 novels here he just discussed. The recent one, Rosen, has created ripples across the Urdu-knowing world, be it India, be it Canada, be it in, say, Pakistan. So before we proceed further, there is a short video clip on his new novel. I just asked the people to just show that clip.
Thank you very much for bearing this.
Yes, Rahman. I just want to discuss you some theme. You see, there is a thematic variety in Rosen. The story is all about revolves around a character, central character, who just misses no opportunity to draw voyeuristic pleasure. He just indiscreet in establishing relationship with number of people, number of girls and women. But at heart, what I would say, I don't want to make some normative language, but still, he's just having some abiding relationship with the girl, with the girl, but still he's just indiscreet in relationship. So this kind of binary opposition, or you can say this kind of a new kind of thing, the one you must have seen in the clip, that the novel is based on Life of Bombay. So the Life of Bombay in Urdu, not many novels written on noir fiction, we call it. So there are traces of noir fiction, a kind of new theme in Urdu literature. It is something unprecedented. If you just look at what Rahman Abbas has discussed in his novel. So there is a threat, there is a real threat to our composite culture. So, and in composite culture, we always talk about the composite culture, especially in North India, UP, Bihar, and some other parts. But he belongs to Bombay, or rather Konkan. So he just introduced a new kind of localization. You will find the locale is somewhat different. So I just want Rahman to tell something about, to just expand his themes. What are the themes he wants to discuss?
Let me start with my first novel, which I had written when I was 24th, but it was published after 6-7 years. And then it starts with Mumbai, basically, the Bombay, which was later under political pressure were to change the name of beautiful city. But since I am part of Mumbai, I've been there, my whole education, my friend circle, everything, it belongs to that city. If I exist in reflection of Mumbai. And the Mumbai is central for all of my 4 novels. And I try to understand that city, and I try to portray each and every possible aspect of that city which is hidden from people. Why so many great authors who lived in Mumbai but couldn't write novel about Mumbai is only because I think they were outsiders coming to Mumbai and living for few years. For example, Manto and Bedi and other well-known writers. But I think to describe a city and to go into very deeper underbellies of the city, or to understand the potential of a city, I think you have to have a rooted, deep relation with that city and every possible dialect spoken there, and the kind of people from different background coming and living there. You have to spend time with them. You have to live that city. Until and unless you will not live a city, you cannot portray that city into creative writing. So that was something lack in Urdu literature, and it was not my responsibility, but it was the way I had to write literature or to write novel, and I had to discover that part of Mumbai. And I did try. I can't say that I am a good writer, but I have tried my best to see and describe that city. Now the question is that why there are different kind of love or the stories of
Rahman,
people.
before we proceed further, have you gone through some poems written by Gulzar on Bombay? He depicted Bombay in a different perspective. So, what's your take on it, Gulzar's poem on Bombay? So, to make the locale of a city of a novel and to compose a poem on a say city is somewhat different thing. How do you perceive it?
I know it's very difficult to say something about Gulzar Saab because again I have to be in Bombay and face him. So, and we love him not as a lyricist but also as a Urdu poet. So definitely he's one of the best poets we have in Urdu. But as far as Mumbai is concerned, I can't say much more than that. I simply love him as a good poet. I would keep this comment for some other days.
Okay, thank you. So you just start, tell me something more about Rosin. What are the thematic variety you just try to just depict?
So the Rosin and the story of a boy who is coming from Ratnagiri, the coastal area of Maharashtra, to Mumbai. And this is his first visit to Mumbai, and he is in Mumbai to try to get some skills and to push his education forward. And that is exactly why people come to Mumbai with their dream to earn, dream to get education, dream to get some skills. So this is a very simple character. And before that, when he was in his matric years, he had affair with his teacher. And in that affair, his involvement was accidental. But when he come to Bombay with his new friends, he visit prostitutes, and there he meet a prostitute named Shanti. And Shanti is also suffering from betrayal in her own relationship, that because the earthquake in Maharashtra, where an entire village was wiped out. So one of her cousin has sold her to the market. And this girl narrates her story to this character, and later on, he visit a Muslim or Mazar Haji Ali, and he meets their Hina, and the story is basically a love story of Hina and Asrar. But I mean, only in film you can have people वो जब पहली बार मिलते हैं किसी से तब उनको प्यार होता है, उससे पहले they don't have any history of any affair with their but in reality I think that the way I have seen people and I have understood people and their character, and not character, the way we are made of, or you can say the programming of our species is something where betrayal is covering larger part of our existence. So, I mean, I don't know even if it is betrayal or simply this is the way we are. I think we indulge with people, we move toward people, and there are many reasons for why we go deeper into relationship. I mean, it may be, a pleasure, or it may be something lack in our subconscious, but there are many reasons which are the driving factors for us to be with the different people. So we cannot say that one love is the ultimate love in one person's life. If you go through the entire history of a man or a woman, you will see there are different kind of loves, and in that history of his or her life, she or he considered that one love was the true love, even that may be a just fabrication.
So it is very interesting point. You see, in his novel, in all his novels, and even in short stories, he thinks that betrayal is an act of is a very sincere act, and it is all human life is all about. The whole human life revolves around promiscuity and betrayal. So it is something which normally people they don't give importance to that, and they just try to run it down. This is the one way of looking at things. So in his novel, you will find that. So I just want to just ask him. You see, recently a novel in Urdu. You must have. I think you are reading. The other day you told me you are reading the another novel written by one of the very famous Urdu writer who got the Sahitya Academy Award, Sayyid Muhammad Ashraf, Aakhri Sawariyan. So he just depicted the way I was just discussing a bit ago. That is, a composite culture is under threat. And the people, what composite culture is all about, they think, no, the Muslims, they are attending some Hindu festivals, and Hindus, they are coming to Muslim house on occasion of Eid and something like that. But in that story, I'm talking about the Aakhri Sawariyan written by Sayyid Muhammad Ashraf. He discussed it that it is not something, sharing is not something which is too evident. He talks about his story, talks about it. I will coming to you the way he depicted. He says sharing is not something like you attending some Muslim attending Hindu festival and the vice versa. He said the one character is just around say 11-year-old. He visits his grandmother's place, maternal grandmother's place, and in a village, which is his neighbor is a one Panditji. So once Panditji's wife asked his grandmother to send his maid, his name was Jammo, to come and to just water Tulsi. Tulsi, you know, is a Tulsi, and he said, "You just ask your maid to come to my house to water Tulsi." Then his grandmother has a very brief conversation with the Mausi, Pandit Mausi, Pandit ji ki jo wife thi, unse they have a conversation. Then the characters who was just 11-year-old, he was just unable to find out what it is. Then he asked Jammo, the maid servant, to go to his to her house. When he was leaving, he said, "You just go there and come back because you have to water Tulsi." Then when she uttered the word Tulsi, then the Jammu returned back. He said, "No, I can't do it." So the point is, the upper middle class family, the Muslim family, and the lower middle class family and the Hindu family, both are closely knitted because they can't means the women, they can't water Tulsi because the maid having periods and the Mausis, Hindu family, they are having periods. So they are, Tulsi itself is a very sacred tree. So like they can't offer namaz, they can't go to temple. The same thing is there. In your story, in Rohzen, you talk about the Bombay riot. Then you find that this kind of relationship, it was a Pandit family and a Muslim family. But in your novel, you just depicted, I think, after Bombay riots, there was a complete split up between the upper class Hindus and Muslim. But still there is some kind of social dynamics or social relationships exist between Muslims and a Dalit family. So do you think it is what prompted you to depict like that? There is an erosion, upper level there is erosion, but in lower level you will find that marginalized section, there is some kind of unity or cohesiveness is there.
Exactly. Let me refer to my first novel, Khuda ke Saaye mein Nakhlistan ki Talash. That novel was basically about Mumbai riots and demolition of Babri Mosque. Now, these two incidents, how they affect relationship between Hindus and Muslim. And we know the campaign which resulted in demolition of Babri Mosque. And after that, we know how communal riot sparks across country and Bombay was badly hit. And after that, we know the bomb blast. Before that, I mean, since my childhood, I used to play with Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Dalit, and we used to go to each other's residence, spend time, families across. We were living in Charles in Mumbai, and there was no sense that he is Muslim, I am Hindu, or I am Muslim, he is Hindu. There was no polarization at all. We used to share festival, we used to share even clothes with our Hindu neighbors. That was the closeness. But then the political agenda to polarize people not only politically divide people, it divide on every possible line they were close to each other. And that was the main reason why the first novel is there. And then in Ruzin, now the dynamics of relationship have changed between communities. And again, this stupid politics is responsible for that. Now, we have seen in Mumbai, or I have observed that a lot of Hindu and Muslim youngs are not mingling with each other. They may be at offices, they may be sharing hands or maybe hi and hellos, but the deep-rooted relationship where you care about everything happening in each other's life, that is not there. But the scheduled caste people, called Dalit and Muslims, they are very close because I think they both are having this insecurity. This insecurity has still created a sort of bound between both of them. So in this, when the blast took place and the riots are taking place, there is a Wagmare, and we have a Wagmare in our family friend who is brother of my mother since last 35 years. And on every Raksha Bandhan, no matter where he lives, he comes to our home, and my mother tied to Rakhi to him. So we had that name was in my subconscious. So when I wrote this chapter in Ruzin about communal riots taking place in Mumbai, this Wagmare comes and take him away, this Musa Bhai, to a safer place, which is basically exactly the building of Yaqub Memon. And then Yaqub Memon is witnessing how this Dalit man has saved his neighbor, and that night and then within these 2-3 days, his building was attacked, his neighbor was attacked, he was threatened, and that something, insecurity was entered in his mind, and then we know what happened. So, very artistically, I have tried to bring all these factual characters into that novel, but keeping the sense that the relationship between Muslims and Dalits are still exist, and they are very close relationship.
Okay. Rahman, there's one thing I just talking about that you try to subvert all the notions, like the notion of love, you give a new perspective. The same thing, the violence you depicted it. We just think and we believe that we just don't like violence. But at the heart of something, if you just go deeper into that, then you'll find we are all worshippers of violence. Who are our real heroes? What they did? They are just an act of violence, whether it is earlier it was religion, now in the name of nationalism. Who will get the awards? Isn't it? So violence, you can't say it is something which is aberration. It is not. It is a very much part of the human life. So why you think in your novel, I think like sex or indulging in some kind of relationship, you don't think it is an aberration, it is a part of human life. But likewise violence, you see on 26th January and 15th of August, the people, they get awards, isn't it? So actually it is some kind of, it is just in the name of, say, religion, in the name of, say, state. So there, the other day we were discussing that the line between nationalism and patriotism has got blurred. Patriotism means you love your country, and nationalism is some kind of political ideology. So in that context, how you see the cult of violence? Do you think it's an aberration, or it is just a way of life?
Look, in human history, if you go through different countries and their histories, and the histories of different religion, and even now the histories of democracies, you will see violence is one of the major ingredient of human behavior. You are not satisfied. Even if Muslims have not wars with Hindus or Christians, they will have wars within themselves. The Shias will have war with Sunnis. And if Sunnis have no war with Shias, then Sunnis have war with the Wahhabi Sunnis.
Yes.
So I think this is something somewhere very deep within you that once I had said that ये जो इंसान है, it's kind of a bhediya, and he is trying to say that he's human. یہ بہت ہی خونی درندہ ہے, it's a cruel animal, and he tried to project himself as sophisticated something, and he all the time he fails. Whenever you see the history of what's happening in America, they have elected a stupid person, you know. See what kind of person we have elected.
Yes, yes.
And this shows that kahin na kahin we like people who are indulge in violence.
Yes, yes. Fascism.
Yeah, but I don't support love. I do believe in love. And I do love. I have been. And I am one of the luckiest author, I think, in Urdu. So, कहने का मतलब ये है, but you have to understand what it is. When you say I love you, exactly what you are trying to say. Are you trying to say that you are going to see an easy opportunity to sleep with? What is this statement? So I try to inquire in this word, on this phrase, or this feeling of yours.
Okay.
And then for this, I think I've been to jail too.
Rahman Abbas is not only fiction writer, he is also a good critic. So he talks about the one part of our discussion is the poetics and politics. So as far as this criticism is concerned, he wrote a book on Urdu criticism. In Urdu, you see, for that matter, I am not aware of all the languages, but criticism in Urdu, or for that matter, fiction criticism, what we try to do, we just try to paraphrase the story. And the story is beautifully told by the author, and the critic, what they do, they just try to paraphrase it in using by their own language. So that's why the pleasure is lost to read a short story writer is very ornate language. So what you think in how you judge a piece of fiction, a piece of short story, you try to summarize it, or with the help of, say, narratology, new discussions, new insights toward the characterization, how the person is depicted through various focalization and through points of view. So what is, how you see the poetics of fiction? If there is anything, or this poetics of fiction is different from poetics of, say, poetry?
Let me begin with that. Critics are dead authors, especially in Urdu. I mean, the kind of critics, I'm lucky that you are here, and you are, of course, not a dead author, but you are a critic. And how we judge fiction, and then exactly where Urdu criticism has failed. You cannot judge any novel or any work of fiction with the aesthetics of poetry or the parameters of poetry. Fiction has its own aesthetics, its own parameters. So that this is exactly what happens. So Farooqi, I mean, the eminent Urdu critic, the whole life he tried to judge work of fiction on the parameters of poetry. And there he goes wrong, I think. You cannot do that. I mean, otherwise, how will you judge George Orwell and Gabriel Garcia Marquez? They were very much political writers, and the political realities of their country, even the Russian authors, they belong to their country, they belong to their people, they belong to every political things happening, affecting human lives. So, fiction is not dream. Dreams are in fiction, but fiction is not like a poem. You are in the sky and you are going somewhere else and nobody is around you. That is the exact. And why we criticize him? And when he wrote novel, he also tried to escape from his period. That novel appealed to non-Urdu readers, but why we refused it? It's only because it was extension of his criticism into literally peace. That he is trying to deny what kind of period he's living in. And fiction is, I think, insistent on the realities of your time, and you're trying to capture it. And I think the vision you have in a piece of writing, the vision about humanity, and the decodifying the human structure and the way they are living, I think that is the way we can judge, or by these things we can look at work of fiction.
So this is all about, we have 10 minutes to go. If there is any question you can ask.
اردو میں سوال کر سکتا ہوں اگر کسی کو اعتراض نہ ہو.
مجھے تو لگا یہاں اردو سمجھنے والے لوگ نہیں، اس لیے میں
نہیں، ایک چھوٹی سی اقلیت ہے ریاست تمل ناڈو میں، لیکن اردو بولنے کے مواقع کم ہوتے ہیں. تو پہلی بات یہ ہے کہ دل کی گہرائیوں سے آپ کا استقبال کرتا ہوں، خوش آمدید. اور دوسری بات یہ ہے کہ میرے ایکچولی 2 سوال ہیں. پہلا سوال یہ ہے کہ رحمان بھائی، آپ جو جد و جہد کر رہے ہیں، آپ اردو میں جو آپ کی تحریریں ہوتی ہیں اور جو لکھ رہے ہیں، میں اس کی تعریف کرتا ہوں، کیونکہ ہماری نسل اور خاص طور پر مسلمانوں جو ہیں، نوجوان نسل جو ہے اس زبان سے بالکل محروم ہو چکی ہے، نہ لکھ سکتے نہ پڑھ سکتے ہیں. تو یہ بات جو ہے بالکل قابل تعریف ہے کہ آپ جو ہے اردو میں لکھ رہے ہیں، آپ اردو کی خدمت کر رہے ہیں. تو میرا پہلا سوال ہے کہ اس ملک میں جہاں اردو کی پیدائش ہوئی تھی اور اردو کی ترقی ہوئی تھی، تو اردو کا کیا مستقبل ہے؟ آپ اور جہاں تک اردو کا مسئلہ ہے جو اردو کی ترقی نہیں ہو رہی، اس کے کیا حل ہو سکتے ہیں؟ اور دوسری بات، ذکر ہوا تھا، کدوائے صاحب نے ذکر کیا تھا کہ آپ کے ناولز، اور میں اب تک آپ کے ناولز نہیں پڑھا ہوں، تو انہوں نے ذکر کیا کہ آپ مسلمانوں اور دلتوں کے تعلقات کے بارے میں کچھ لکھتے ہیں. تو اس بات کو مد نظر رکھتے ہوئے آنے والے انتخابات جو ہے ریاست اتر پردیش میں، اس کے نتائج کے بارے میں آپ کا کیا خیال ہے؟ پتہ نہیں کہ آپ سیاست کی دنیا میں جانا چاہتے ہیں، لیکن یہ ایک سوال ہے کہ ریاست اتر پردیش میں اگر دلتوں اور مسلمانوں کے تعلقات گہرے رہتے ہیں اور برقرار رہتے ہیں، تو کیا اس کے کیا نتائج ہو سکتے ہیں اور ملک کے مستقبل کے لیے کیا ہو سکتا ہے؟ تو ایک اردو کے بارے میں اور ایک سیاست پر میرا سوال. بہت بہت شکریہ.
جہاں تک اردو کے مستقبل کا تعلق ہے، definitely. Yeah. So, as far as future of Urdu is concerned, there are 2 things we have to understood. One is literature and one is language. I'm very much optimistic about literature because it is one of the most secular tradition we are nurturing and it's moving ahead. But as far as language is concerned, you see, in Lucknow, there is no more people who are educated in Urdu. So as far as language is concerned, it is at very speedily decline, اور اس کا future بہت زیادہ bright نظر نہیں آتا ہے. But there are possibilities because in different countries, if you go to Middle East, if you go to Pakistan, you go to Europe, you go to Canada, there are different pockets in people and they are preserving their language. So of course there is possibility of bright future for that aspect too. The second thing about the politics and the relationship between Dalit and Muslim, I think UP election ka result next 2-3 مہینے میں آئے گا and you will come to know exactly what happened. I'm not Jyotish to predict about what will happen, but I do feel that if these 2 factors will come together and jointly they will take position against fascist forces, whoever it is, and they do intelligent voting, then we hope that fascist will not continue. According to me, any political party which has an ideology which believes in autocracy is a fascist party. I've been there last year. My novel was launched there. It is one of it's extremely powerful Urdu platform. You will see in a day more than 30,000 crowd of Urdu from different backgrounds, and it's one of the best festivals I think we have in India.
I just want to say something about Urdu. He just cited the example of Jashn-e-Rekhta. You see 25,000 young girls and boys, they were there. They are not aware of Urdu script. Yes, if you are talking about the Urdu script, yes, it is in decline. But the Urdu is not about, you see, language, script is important, but the language is spoken language, that is much more important. So first language is born, then after 200 years, a script is given shape. So the point, the Urdu people, they think that no, our cultural ethos is only Persian script. है ना, गोश्त और नाखून का रिश्ता बताते हैं. That is not true. You see, Punjabi is written 2 scripts. There are many languages, they are written in several scripts. So Urdu would survive. I'm afraid this script is there or not, but as a language, as a literature, I think it would survive. But there's no harm in it. If Urdu is written 2 languages in 2 scripts, there's no harm in it. But we traditionally we don't believe in that. So every language has this kind of yes, you have question.
So I have two questions. One is general about Urdu literature. Urdu literature, especially fiction, prose. When we talk about Urdu prose, still today we are stuck in, we don't move beyond Mantu and Chugtai. So what I wanted to ask that what kind of Urdu, in current time, what kind of literature is happening? Or it is happening at all? That is my first question, for both of you. The second question is about your novels. How much it is autobiographical? Because last night I was reading your second novel, and it seems it is, it is your story.
Story of a bad boy. I will answer, and then you can, the first question you can answer, the second. Look, this allegation I'm carrying since I have written this first novel. All 4 novels are different. They are stories of different people. But then so many readers think that every character belongs to me. What can I do? I'm not all of them.
It is common sense that made us blind. We think that the poet is saying or the fiction writer is saying I. I means a grammatical I. It does not mean the Rahman Abbas. Ghalib says so many things. A poet says so many things. Not mean that it is just grammatical I. And we think that we perceive this as a common sense. And the common sense has made us blind. You see, what reality is, through the language we create reality. Reality is not that it descent from the heaven or something. It is the through language you create. So it is all about.
Yeah, very, very quickly, from what I understand, Urdu has a very secular approach. Somehow it got put into a box of belonging to a religious group, which is not true. Like Tamil Nadu, I'm from 7 generations of a family born to the land of Tamils. And unfortunately, I cannot read and write Tamil. The same thing, Urdu also. Many generations of Urdu who happen to be born into Urdu families do not read and write Urdu today. Because for some reason we all became very anglicized in our ways, maybe even of thinking. But my question is, if there is so much secular thought in Urdu, is enough being done to bring it to the nation as a language that does not necessarily belong to a religious group? Because it was born in India. As much as India should be proud of Malayalam and Tamil, it should equally be proud of the language Urdu, because it was nurtured and born right here in Hindustan. And is enough being done to promote that? I know we have some TV channels going on with Urdu in it, but in schools and colleges, because Tamil Nadu is a hub of education, basically. Is there a movement happening? Is there an Urdu council here which can talk to people about Urdu being as much Indian as any other language? A. And B is enough being done to promote secularism through Urdu? These are my questions.
I think there is no need to have this guilt that nobody is considering it a secular language. I think it is one of the most secular languages, and I don't feel there is any need to say it. It is a fact. And see, it is in last 100 years, the 4 major writers we have. We have Premchand, we have Krishna Chandra, we have Rajendra Singh Bedi. 3 come from different religious backgrounds. So this tradition is there. One of the greatest living critic is Gopichand Narang. So we don't feel any we have to promote its secular credential. Those who are in guilt, I think they should do it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being a wonderful audience.